Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RVing in New England. It is Wednesday, October 24th. Let me bring up our co-host here and see what Mr. DePietro is up to tonight. Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, Bob, and good evening, everyone, fellow RVers. And Bob, I'm kind of depressed.
Why is that?
I'm glad you asked, but do you want to know why I'm kind of depressed?
Go ahead, John. Why are you depressed?
Okay, Bob, it happens just about this time every year, and I called a NERVDA member today and made an appointment for winterization. And it's one of the, I don't know if I can get through tonight, Bob, because I'm Friday morning at 8 o'clock, I'm bringing it in. And that means my use of my RV is, it's going to be severely hampered. And I hope I can make it through the show tonight.
Well, I hope so. That's got to be a traumatic experience.
It is.
So it is a Wednesday night. It's RVing in New England, and it's World Series time in New England. So I guarantee you we'll be off by 8 o'clock because the game starts at 8 o'clock. So don't leave a minute too early.
And Bob, let me correct you. I don't want to correct you, but I want to emphasize something you said. It's World Series time in New England, not New York, but New England.
Did I say New York?
No, but I want to make sure that nobody thinks that New York is part of New England.
That's true. The Yankees are not playing.
It's the Northeast.
Are not playing in the World Series.
Right.
I want to bring up our guests so we can enjoy some of the banter tonight. Let's see here. Here he comes. Tonight we welcome Mike Keller from Keller Marine. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
We were just doing some bantering. I promised everybody we'd be off by 8 o'clock so they could watch the Red Sox beat the Dodgers for the second time in 2 nights. And I feel pretty safe that we probably don't have any Dodger fans on here, but we know we have some Yankee fans on here, and they're either at the golf course or on the 19th hole, but they sure as hell aren't in the World Series.
And Bob,
that's terrible.
We just proved ourselves prophetic, not pathetic, but prophetic.
Why was that, John?
Because when we were talking with Mike just before we went on the show, we said that Jerry and Walter will probably be with us tonight, and they will have some good questions because, Zagami, let's admit it, you and I don't know much about what Mike is going to talk about.
We don't know anything about what Mike is. I shouldn't say that. I do know how to plug it into the pedestal. And then when I go inside, I do know how to turn the lights on.
Right. Exactly.
So I don't know what that qualifies, but yeah, we get Jerry Plant is joining us, and he's back home in Cape Cod. Jerry, you got home just in time for the tornado last night. Goes all around the country for 2 months, and he comes home to a tornado in Cape Cod. I hope everything's all right down there. Joe Wood from North Carolina. I don't know Joe, but we got North Carolina. Is he one of your friends, Mike?
Oh yeah, he's a good man. How's it going, Joe?
Man. Well, if you say he's a good man, then I won't shut him off on the show. How's that?
He's all good, man.
And Walter is with us. 2 more camping trips this year still for Walter. Wow, he's a brave heart. Mike, we've known each other for a while, and you are a tremendous supplier to a lot of our dealers up here in New England and the country, certainly Northeast. And I know you got a new place in Florida. So take a few minutes and tell them who you are and what Keller Marine and RV is all about.
Sure. Well, thanks for the opportunity. First off, got a lot of good customers up in your area there, and we've, for a lot of years, really appreciated the business we've gotten out of that territory, and a lot of good consumers, and a lot of people RV in New England, and we really appreciate that. And so this year we expanded down the coast to Tampa, Florida. What we do is basically anything you could put on an RV or a boat, we basically handle and try to stock dealers and make sure that the product's there for when the consumer needs it, and try to make sure that we provide information as well as product. So
now you run trucks up in New England several times a week, right?
Oh yeah. Every day there's a truck in New England, a couple trucks in New England. Yep.
So they don't have to wait long to get something from your company. Quickly, Mark Polk just joined us, and Estelle Drew has joined us from New Hampshire, and she's going to want to talk about solar panels. Her husband wants solar panels on the roof. So, and
I told you, Mike. I told you. We're not, look at everything is happening now.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that your friend there from North Carolina, what was his name?
Joe Wood.
What was it?
Joe Wood.
Joe, are you a carnivore or a vegetarian? Because
this is an important question, Joe.
It's our goal, Mike, to turn everybody in North Carolina into carnivores.
Got it.
Because Don Polk eats the other stuff, that greeny stuff that grows on the ground and on trees and what have you. New England RV says, "Oh, that must be Michelle and Laurie." New England says, "Hi guys, no sound for me, but I'm here." And we got
Joe's a meat lover. Okay.
Yeah, that's another one. How about Roy, Kathy, Dennis from Florida? Mike, is that one of your fan clubs?
Absolutely. They're good people from Florida. Absolutely.
All right.
They work with us every day.
Mike, it sounds like you're a pretty powerful person in the RV industry.
I don't know if that'd be the case. I think I just hang out here with the rest of you guys.
Okay.
You guys have all the power. I just try to hang out with you.
Yeah. See, we asked you a question, and then we've done everything to disrupt your capability to answer.
You know what Doug Geddard from Forest River calls John and I now? Because we eat all the elephant ears and all their food when we go out for a dealer open house week. He calls us the East Coast Outlaws. I kind of like it. We have to brand it. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Mike, you talked earlier today when we were kind of getting ready for the show, and what was important to you, and I think it'll be important to our viewers, is you wanted to talk about basic electricity. This was one of the slides that you provided. Do you want to kind of get into that conversation just a little bit? Yeah,
I promise to keep this low tech, but I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding of basic electricity. And I don't remember back in school when you learned amps times volts equals watts, but what that meant to anybody was kind of unknown. So I just put a slide there together to show you that amps is basically the rate of current flow. That's how fast. In this example, we're showing a drum of water to try to simulate power, because it's much easier to understand water than it is power, because you can't really see power. You can see water. So if you can think of amps as the rate of the flow out the pipe, if you think of volts as the potential difference, which means the size of the pipe, and watts is the two things together. So how fast it flows out of the pipe and how big the pipe is. And if you can think of that as your watts, then that's how you understand how fast you use power and how much power is required to run a device. And most devices are measured in watts. So your hair dryer is 1200 watts. You can see I use a hair dryer a lot. That's one of my favorite devices here. I have a lot of trouble with hair drying, but obviously joke there, but watts is the things that most things are measured in. So if you look at appliances, most are measured in watts. And then I think when we get into solar, are the things that use amps, we talk in terms of amp hours, and amp hours is how long that water can stay in that barrel. So if we can think of solar as a rain going into a barrel, and rather than the sun going into a panel, we think of the rain going into a barrel. When it fills that barrel, it gives you the solar energy into your batteries, and that's like the water going into the barrel in my analogy. So then as the device uses water out of the barrel begins to empty. The more devices that are plugged in, there's basically just more pipes to that barrel, and the faster the barrel goes empty. So if you can just understand amp hours as how quickly that barrel empties, you can think of all devices that way. So that's really my example, is to be as simple as possible.
Mike, that's a great example as far as DePietro is concerned. I don't know whether I slept during science class or whether I just didn't understand it, but the fact that you said if power is a full barrel of water, or you know what, let's put it this way, let's go to college. It's a full keg of beer.
There you go.
You've got one little hole in that keg, the water flows out a certain way, but if you've got several holes in that keg, the beer diminishes rapidly. And let's make it even easier to understand. If you've got a brewery called a solar panel, as you're drinking that beer down below, that solar panel up top is adding more beer to the barrel. have I put it into camping terms?
I think it's just good. I think it's right on the money.
Okay. Again,
He might adopt that in his next training program, John.
Right.
Hey, we got another member of your fan club here, Mike. I don't know.
How's it going, Mark?
He always beats up on John and I don't know why, because we're always very nice to Mark and Bob out there. So we do that.
And you, Mark, and Bob all use the same comb too.
Yeah, it's
right.
I think it's something kind of in Connecticut. I don't know. Massachusetts, Connecticut seems to have that hairdo. I know a lot of guys up there that have it.
That's true. Chris Andrew has this hairdo.
Right.
Hairdo. Yeah. Right. He does. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So if you know the slide you want me to bring up, Mike, I'll do it. But let me throw this one up and see if it makes any sense for the next topic.
Sure, absolutely. We're talking about, every RV has either 30 amp or 50 amp onboard power, and so often we throw those terms around, but really who knows what that means. And we see a lot of people that don't understand it, but they act like they understand it, and so they go, I want a 50 amp RV. Well, why do you want a 50 amp RV? Well, because I have a lot of appliances that I want to run. So this little slide is just trying to show that a 30 amp is the power source on the left, showing a female where you would plug into, where your RV would plug into that female, showing the hot side has one hot leg, and then has a ground and basically neutral. So that's how 30 amp works. And your potential, we talked about the size of the pipe. The potential in 30 amp is basically 3,600 watts, because you have 120 volts times, if we talk about amps times volts, 30 amps times 120 volts, we're going to have 3,600 watts potential output. If we go to the 50 amp, we're going to have 6,000 watts per leg. So a total of 12,000 watts, because in the 50 amp, you can see we have two hot legs and only one neutral and one ground. So we can basically go from 3,600 watts in a 30 amp RV to 12,000 watts potential in a 50 amp RV. And that's really why we do it. It's not that we think 50 amp is cool or we get it confused with 220, which a lot of people do. It's really just to get the potential higher in that drum. We want to be able to get the water out of that drum faster. So that's why we run 50 amp.
Okay. Hey, Mike,
this guy's a math whiz.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Mike, from a basic perspective here, and tell me if this is the right time to ask this question or not. But, I just got familiar with these pictures of the two, the 30 and 50 amp sets there. Where does a surge protector come into this discussion, if at all?
Yeah, well, we're going to today we're going to talk about generators, but let's say we're in the park and we're using the pedestal from the park. Where surge protection comes in is to take away problems that can occur with the power source. So if you think of a surge protector like in your home, where you wouldn't plug your computer directly into a wall, you plug into a power strip, and then you plug your computer into the wall through the power strip. A surge protector acts very similarly to that in an RV. You plug your RV into the power strip, and then you plug the power strip into the power pedestal at the RV park. So if it's 30 amp, you plug it into a 30 amp connector. If it's 50 amp, but both of them would go through this surge protector. So that's the purpose of a surge protector.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I think the slide up there is 50 amp to 30 amp it's really just detailing it out. I don't think it's, again, without getting into a lot of electricity, they were just showing the different legs and for all the scientists that want to talk later or want to be electrical engineers, so we can do that at a different time. But that slide was in there, so thank you.
Okay.
We have a note from Mark Polk.
Mark says losing the connection. Now the connection on our end is pretty good, Mark.
It's got to be ready.
Michelle has no sound tonight. I'm going to guess that's on your end, Michelle, because sound is okay between the three of us. And if anybody else is experiencing that, let me know. Mr. Laturco has jumped in, and Ed will get you off in time to watch the ball game, I promise. Steve Giano says, I still have the what you read this one, Mike, because I don't have the slightest idea what he's talking about.
Okay, I still have the old iota transfer switch. Is that a problem? I'm thinking he's talking about basically, obviously, iota is a converter charger company, inverter charger as well. So I think he's asking about transfer of the power between shore power and line power. I'm guessing that's the question. And the transfer switch is fine as long as you're getting into as long as you can make the power conversion happen, the switch over between line power and shore power. So
Okay.
I'm guessing that's the question. Again, I don't know the particular switch he's talking about, but I do know IOTA is a company that makes them.
Okay, if we're off base on that one, Steve, give us a little bit more.
Oh, they were recalled.
They were recalled, so we can take that one offline. We'll get some of the answers back to you on that one, Steve. You've got some exciting things to talk about with. Let's see, is this slide important to our previous discussion?
Well, I think we're talking about inverter generators, and what we got to kind of hit on is the idea first is what an inverter does. And we were talking about solar a little bit earlier. If you can think of inverters, and this is the conversion of AC, basically an inverter takes DC power and makes it into AC power. And a converter does the opposite. It takes AC and makes it DC. So when you think of an inverter style generator, you're talking about a generator that makes power in AC and then inverts it to DC and then converts it to DC and then reinverts it to AC. And the reason you do that is because so you can make a smooth power cycle. When you have a lot of appliances going in and out or different loads, dynamic loads, we like to call it, things that come on and off like compressors on air conditioners or things like that. Inverters are much better at handling dynamic loads than a typical generator that would be creating power in AC. So like your onboard Onan would be an AC generator. So we're talking DC inverter generators tonight. And the reason we use DC inverters is because they can make power more evenly and they're also much quieter. So they don't have to run a certain RPM on the stator. So,
so as far as I'm concerned with this whole discussion in the last minute, I thought AC and DC turned into Guns N' Roses, and that's about all I can provide to it. So when you get, but hey, Bob, you see Brian and Lisa are watching our guests from last week. My ADD kicked in here. We had some great guests last week, and interestingly, they probably talk about old units that don't even have power, right, Bob?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did a great show on vintage restorations with them last week. And actually, Brian signed up for a training next week with Lippert, and he's got winterizing specials, which I'll be publishing this week. Here's from Jerry. Now, Jerry knows what he's talking about. I don't, but Jerry does. Can you read that one?
Okay.
Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Jerry's asking about the difference between a pure sine and a modified sine wave inverter. So here's how it goes. If you think about the sine wave, and I don't know if anybody had trigonometry or remember the waves, your sine, cosine, tangent, but the sine is a wave that is what represents the electrical wave, 60 hertz, and it's a perfect wave. And what a modified sine inverter is not capable of is making that perfect wave. A true sine inverter makes the perfect wave, and it has to do with the way the computer works on board of the inverter. The more exact the electronics are, the more perfect the power curve will be. And if you see a jagged curve, which sounds like an oxymoron, but a jagged curve is produced by a modified sine because it can't produce the wave perfectly. And so devices that are very power sensitive do not like modified sine inverters. True sine inverters, and you can kind of see in this slide here, it's probably there you're seeing how the inverter works. It takes it produces AC and then converts the DC and then turns it back again to AC, and that sine wave is in that last slide. And a pure sine, that wave is perfect, as you're seeing right there. It's a perfect wave. If that was a modified sine inverter creating that wave, you'd see jaggedness in that curve.
Hey, Bob, you can take me off the screen to make that sign bigger there if you want.
So you can see in step 3 there, where it's converting it back to AC. It's basically allows that perfect sine wave right there, and that sine wave being perfect, when you have appliances or computers or things that are load sensitive, very power sensitive, the pure sine is just much better. Actually, you can damage equipment with modified sine if you don't have exactly that curve. So that's the reason for it. And by the way, the inverters we're going to talk about tonight are all pure sine We're one of two pure sine inverters on the market, and inverter generators on the market is Energizer. It's Honda and Energizer, the only two right now that produce a true pure sine inverter generator. So that's a good question.
So this is probably a good lead into the generator discussion, and hopefully a lot of our dealers are stocking the Energizer. But do you want to go ahead and describe what it is, how it works, why it's important, and as we'll show on some of the other slides, these products are only available at RV dealers. So the dealer feels secure in carrying the product because he's not going to get beat out by somebody discounting and wholesaling it up on Amazon or some other website. And one of the things that we always push, and I know Mike subscribes to this theory because I've sat in some of his seminars at the trade shows, is that we want customers to deal with the local dealer. We don't want them buying off Amazon. We don't want them buying from bandits out in the Midwest that aren't going to service and support them. And Mike services and supports our dealers all day. So I'll shut up, Mike, and you can explain your business philosophy and walk in. Go ahead, John.
Before you answer that question, let me ask you this question along the lines of generators. People think, well, you know what, it's only for my RV, but here in New England, actually, you know what, I saw a couple snowflakes today, and I wasn't in Cambridge, but winter is here, and there are going to be times when we're going to lose power. Now, are the generators that you sell through RV dealers also adaptable for home use, that people can get it from our dealers as opposed to going to a big box store and dealing with a clerk who is only there to take up space, that does not know what they're talking about? And if, I'm guessing again, if you buy the wrong kind of generator, you could do some damage that, is not good.
Okay, yeah. So first part of the question is there's a 3-year warranty on Energizer, and all the dealers that sell it will stand behind it. So you bring it back to them. In the first year, it's 100%, and then the next 2 years, it's parts and labor, or it's parts and labor can be a charge. But we have had such good luck with this that basically whoever the RV dealer is that it comes back to has not had any problems at all. And it's amazing the amount of generators we sold that we've had very little return. To your question about whether they can be used in the home, obviously in a home, you have to find a way to get the power to whatever devices you're going to use. It's not as simple as on board. Somebody asked earlier about a transfer switch. In the home, most people don't have a transfer switch, or an auto transfer switch, even better. Right. So if power would fail. So what ends up happening with these kind of generators is people usually run them into a power box that they might throw on their floor and run extension cords to it. And it gets them out of a jam. It's not, maybe preferable from a long-term solution, right, but it'll give them temporary power through extension cords that they could, run into their house. And it has a 30 amp twist lock on the 2000, and on the 3200. Both of the generators you're seeing to the left in the slide here, those are both twist lock generators, meaning that they have a standard 30 amp twist lock connector on them. The one on the right is an RV specific connector, so you'd have to have an RV cord set to hook into it. Mm-hmm. So the 3200 on the right side of the screen there is an RV only unit.
What's the other two connector?
In the generator industry, if we could see, let me see if I can get a slide number for Bob to show you what a twist lock looks like in the plug. So see, it's just the way that you can see it on next to the last slide, Bob. There's a picture of that on a 7500 that shows like 4 plugs, and basically there you go. And you can see the one that looks like it's like a jagged look. The second and third one over, those are both what we'd call 30 amp twist lock connectors.
Easier.
So you would plug that in and twist the connector so it doesn't pull back out.
Okay, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And that connector's made that way. So you'd have to run that to a regular extension cord in your house or something like that. And obviously you would have to unplug your appliances from the wall outlets and plug them into the generator. And it would be limited by your, how, again, back to our amps times volt equals watts, how many things we could run that way.
Okay. Bob, there's a few questions from our audience that you may want to.
Yeah, you were thinking, you're reading my mind. We got a couple of questions from the audience there. Want to grab that one, Mike?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it does. And we had a slide on this too that shows the decibels, but there is a quiet mode. There's an energy saver mode in the generator. The question is, does the Energizer offer these models with quiet modes? It's the quietest industry. It's the quietest inverter style generator in the industry, and that makes it basically the quietest industry because inverters are always more quiet than other generators. So it runs at high of about 59 decibels and the low is about 50 decibels. So to try to give you what 50 decibels is, basically if you live in the suburbs and you sit at your house at night, the noises you hear are about 50 decibels. It's not the sound of a train going by any means. So it's a very quiet generator, and so it operates kind of in quiet mode because it is that way.
How about our second question relative to batteries?
Can tell our customers if the type of battery matters. Okay, are we talking lithium ion batteries? I'm not sure if that's the question. You charge.
Well, the batteries really come into play with generators as far as the generator provides power and recharging, maybe? I don't know.
I think the question maybe is more centered around the idea of solar, possibly. Basically, we would deal with onboard batteries. We have 12 volt and 6 volt. Maybe that's, not sure if that's the question, but it's normally, and the idea here is we would be basically not charging batteries with this unit. We'd be offering a power source. If the converter on board is charging from a 110 source, then obviously it would charge the 6 volt or the 12 volt, whatever it's supposed to charge. Mm-hmm. But it would give power, 110 power to the unit. So whatever that would need to be on the battery side.
This goes back to what you were talking about, what Walter has done to his house.
There's a question. Walter's asking a question about 7,000 generator that he has in his house with a cutover switch. And you can definitely have an electrician. You definitely don't want to do this yourself to install a cutover switch, because your local power company will not like you if you send voltage back the other direction while they're trying to work on the line. So you have to know that that thing is installed, as Walter's saying, by somebody that's a licensed electrician, because you need to know that that power is off to the outside world when it's on to your generator to your house. If you lose that, you're going to have a really bad day at the office, because you're going to actually have a guy working on the line trying to repair the line, and you're sending voltage amperage out across the line, and that's going to get you in a lot of trouble. So yeah, definitely want to either use cord sets like I said earlier, or have a licensed electrician install a cutover. Yeah, now we're asking this question here.
It's not a question.
There's an active Honda Colt is the way it's being put out there, basically to shut down the other brands being used. And I agreed that the reason Honda has that cult following is what I said about, we're the only, Energizer and Honda are the only two in the industry that use true pure sine inverters. So that's what usually fails on an inverter style generator is the inverter part of the generator. And it fails because when you convert AC to DC, you have loss, which is heat. And when heat happens in loss, it takes out the onboard inverter. And if the onboard inverter is not pure sine, it's more likely to fail. So the failure point becomes the inverter on the generator. And since Honda uses pure sine like we do at Energizer, they both last a lot longer, and they both are much more power sensitive to appliances and more friendly to appliances.
One of the things that we talk to our dealers about.
That's all the questions I see there on that. So if there's anybody else.
Well, one of the things we talk to the dealers all the time about is selling value and selling the customer to come back to them.
Do we want to talk about Energizer versus any other competition? Is that a good topic to have right now? Anybody want to talk about that?
Well, let me bring up a question that may be pertinent. Actually, I know is pertinent because it's in the news right now. And we were talking a couple shows ago that in many times here in an area that has severe winters, or like in Mark and Dawn Polk's circumstance, in the last couple of weeks with those hurricanes down in North and South Carolina, they ended up living in their RV for a 3-week period, and they were able to get out of the area and live in their RV. Obviously, they had generators, et cetera. But what happened in New England a month ago is that there were 3 towns that basically are paralyzed with explosions from the gas lines, and there are thousands of families that are being kept in hotels. But thanks to Mr. Zagami recently, the gas company that's responsible for it purchased around 400 RVs to house these families. So, it'll be interesting to see if they're powered properly, whether there's live power coming in or generators or just what. But maybe you want to talk about that, where, what type of power usage does an RV have? And if you're going to go the generator route, how big should you be buying based upon your power needs?
Right. So we were talking kind of earlier about 50 amp versus 30 amp. So if you have 30 amp service on your RV and you have a 3,200 watt generator, like the Energizer, you can pretty much run everything that's expected to run on a 30 amp service. But we had shown a little earlier those 2 drums sitting side by side. The cool thing about Energizer and a lot of inverters, frankly, you can parallel them. So if you have a 3,200 and you want to put another 3,200 online, you buy the parallel version of the unit, and you can put 2 inverter generators side by side and get the 6,400. So they do stack, and inverters are the only ones that can stack like that. You couldn't do that with a conventional generator. And so, yeah, the slide there that we're showing the 2 drums of water side by side is just all we did was get a second drum of water, which is the second generator. And so we can upsize to even the 3,200s. You can use them in parallel. Mm-hmm. You can also go to the 7,500, which if you're running strictly 50 amp, there's a 50 amp plug on the 7,500. So if you're going to a bigger fifth wheel or things like that that are using 50 amp, there's where you'd want to buy the 7,500 watt generator, because we talked about 12,000 being potential on them.
John, you're in trouble now, John, because Mark says there's going to be a test later on. And that's Mr. Polk. Now, as long as he's got a question on there about what's better for you, meat or vegetables, and I don't see Dawn on here tonight, but she might pop on later on, then we'll allow it, Mark. Lisa's got a very important question, and they are, in fact, a dealer. Lisa, I will send you all of Mike's contact information so that you can sign up.
There's even a better question than that, an actual question.
What? Which one?
Her most recent one, the one that just came in after that. There we go.
So the question is about a 15 amp service. Is there a generator that fits just that market? Yeah, that's a 15 amp service. Basically, again, we think in terms of everything today is so high amp draw that we think 15 amp is not going to be enough. But I get it. There's a lot of that stuff out there. You could put a 15 amp plug into the generator, and basically just you wouldn't be able to draw as much from it, obviously. But you could put a 15 amp plug over to the generator to the RV. So it's like you would. I think her question is basically, you wouldn't be getting the full. You'd have more generator than you needed for the product.
And as we mentioned when we talked to you, about the show, Mike, all of these shows are archived on our NERVDA Facebook page. Just click on videos on the left, so you can see the one we did last week with Lisa and Brian on their vintage restoration business. It's really quite remarkable and quite a nice company. Mr. Polk is back in there, says Don is with Tyler and his girlfriend having dinner. So she passes up an evening with John and Bob.
Yeah, to get
Tyler and his girlfriend.
Yeah, to eat a bowl of vegetables. Doesn't say much about us, Zagami.
I guess not.
Oh.
Boy, I don't know. So we're already past the half hour.
Go to Walter.
Where did I miss you, Walter?
Yep. Right by Mark. Yep.
What do you think there, Mike?
Yeah, that's that is a good question. Bonding, because of the way, and this is where I want my electrical engineer that's not here right now to give you the answer to that question, because it is a very good question about bonding. Has to do with the grounding and on the way the generators can. And he's right. There's a Progressive Industries has a good product to do that for bonding the generator. It has to do with open neutral, and like I said, this is why I want to defer to my electrical engineer counterpart.
Don't feel bad, Mike. Walter just rebuilt his entire trailer, so Walter's on the other side of the equation with Jerry from the rest of us guys. We'll get some answers back to you on that, Walter.
Well,
thank you.
And Walter's example, I mean, it's certainly one that if we have Walter's phone number, Walter, you can send it to Bob directly, and we'll give it to Mike, and Mike, you can follow up with him tomorrow.
Absolutely.
With that, and also follow up with Lisa, and Lisa was interested in bringing solar into the mix. And
yeah, want to talk a little bit about? Are there any other generator slides that you wanted me to bring up, Mike?
Well, if we want to talk about the slide with basically, you can see the slide you have up right now is the straight the RV generator, the 3200 generator. I don't want to miss that. We have an RV only available through RV dealers. RV generator with an RV plug, and that's what you're seeing there is a 30 amp RV plug standard on the unit. And this generator is just only available right now through Keller and through the dealers. It's an upscale RV design generator built just for RVs. The generators we looked at first, the 3200 could be used for the 3200P could be used as a home generator like we talked about, or it could be used as RV. This is an RV only plug. So normally you have to buy a generator adapter to plug your power cord from your RV into the generator, because most generators originally in portables weren't made for RVs, so they didn't have an RV plug on them. When you got to these generators we specifically made for RVs, you don't have to have that adapter, that twist lock we were talking about earlier. You can just plug the RV cord set right into the generator. So that saves you having to buy that adapter, and the generator is designed specifically for that purpose. So it's a kind of a neat deal that we offer that nobody else is offering right now, basically in the model that we're talking about, where we have a true pure sine inverter with an RV plug.
Mike, can you give us a ballpark estimate of what type of price range there are, like the unit that you just mentioned that got the RV plug right into it? What type of money are we talking about?
It's basically $1,100 is the price that we'll be seeing them at. $1,199 to $1,199 is usually the range we see them at, dealers at. And basically it's a great product for that. Like we said, 3-year warranty, and it's going to be about half the price of, comparable people in the marketplace. So it's a really good value. It's not just a really good generator, but it's also a really good value.
Like, talk about your warranty and how you take care of the dealers on the warranty as far as getting them back to your facility where you got all the trained technicians, so you're not hitting and missing and hoping the guy knows how to fix the generator, but in support of your dealers on the warranty program. Why don't you go into that?
Okay, I think it's really great that the dealer can look their consumer in the eye and know that the 3-year warranty is real, and they can just get it right back to us if there's any problem on that unit. They get the gasoline out of it and get it on our truck and back to our place, so we can get them repaired and back out. So warranty on a unit is not it's not like you get another unit. You get your unit back, but you have a complete repair and the unit's functioning perfectly. There's so little of that, honestly, that's why we can stand behind them like that. If you didn't have a good product, there's no way you could offer that kind of warranty. But we know the product's good. We've proven it, and this is our second full year now to really start pushing this line, and so we feel really good about its results, and we just put that service out there because we feel as though the consumer wants to go back to the place they bought the unit for repair. They don't want to go like so many of these big stores where they tell you go to this guy down the street that does repair, and you're like, well, I bought the unit from you. Why do I have to go down the street to this guy that does repair for a warranty situation? Where this way, the very same dealer that sold you the unit can go right back and fix it and give it right back to you, and as a warranty situation.
Hey, Mike,
we might have to put. What we might have to put.
Tell us is that you didn't tell us Walter was on the payroll.
Yeah, we might have to put Walter on the payroll. I told you he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's right. I was going to get into that, and I appreciate that, Lord. Thank you. The 2000, because we talked about this, the smallest unit out there, and it would be, there's a little 15 amp plug on it, like a real typical outlet you'd see in your home. So you just plug basically into that. I just don't know about, again, you'd have extra power, but he's right, 17 amps and also 45 pounds. So it's really nice to lug around. So that's a better answer than I gave. So I thank you for that, Walter.
Thank you, Walter. Oh, hey, Walter, you haven't posted any recipes this week. I had to post one of them the other day, but it's about time for you to post up another recipe for our fans here. What's this? Ooh, they offered. I think we will put them on the payroll, Mike. Do they offer a 6-year warranty?
Yeah, I'm not aware of that. But I mean, sounds good. But I really know the 3, and you could probably purchase additional, but it would be through a warranty company or something like that. But from them, standard, we've been 3-year.
Okay. Do you want to jump in a little bit? We don't have slides on solar, but I know a lot of people. It seems like every show where we have somebody that's technically inclined, solar comes up. And I think, as we mentioned last week, at the dealer open house this year, there was a tremendous number of boondocking vehicles. They recognize the millennials want to be outside, the younger kids want to be outside kayaking and mountain climbing and biking and what have you. And generators are perfect for that. But also solar panels. There's a lot of portable solar panels. What's your view on solar power, and where does it fit and where doesn't it fit?
Okay, so solar power has a lot of issues to it. And again, I don't mean issues by negative. I just mean things to consider. You have to, first off, realize where you are in the country. If you're in Phoenix, Arizona, your solar is going to be so much better than it's going to be in the Northeast, because there's so many reasons for that, but not the least of which is direction of the sun. But you also have trees everywhere here, and there you have cactuses that really aren't in the road for your sunlight, your direct sunlight. So a solar panel produces a certain percentage of its energy based on how direct the sunlight is, and every solar panel has efficiency ratings based on how effective they are based on the sunlight that they're in. So if you think about our area, first off, if you go into a campground and park under a tree, you're probably not going to use your solar panel. But why would you? Because you already got a power pedestal, so you don't need solar. So if you're going to be out in the middle, as you said, boondock, in the middle of nowhere, you can't park under a tree unless you use some of the products that are out there. Almost everyone now has a basically a suitcase version of solar that can be set up outside the RV at some point and moved around based on where the trees are. So you don't get stuck with having it on top of your roof and you're parked under a tree. And so now the solar panel is only 20% effective. So there is portable solar out there, as you said earlier, but all those things considered, you're always with solar panel. What I think most people lose is they want to, at least when I talk to most consumers, they think they're going to plug their toaster right into the panel. They miss the fact that it has to go to a DC source, like a battery set, and then invert back to an AC source. So the direct current is DC and AC is alternating current. And we could get into Tesla and all the people that versus Edison, but AC won out on the power grid for all of our homes, but DC is direct current. So when we were talking about pure sine, a direct current wave is straight. It's a flat line. It's direct current. So when you make power for charging batteries, you make them in direct current and you put them into these DC battery sources. And those battery sources then are like that drum of water we talked about earlier, which get drained down over time. And the amount of water that leaves the barrel is the amount of electricity that's leaving the battery. So if if you have the average solar panel now is about 150 watts in RV, and that's pretty good because it wasn't that long ago they were 80 was an average. So it's going up a lot. The efficiency of the panels have been getting better. The size for production is getting better. But so if you can think of 180 watts, we just got done talking about the smallest generator we talked about was 2,000 watts. We talked about a 7,500 watt generator. So think about 150 compared to 2,000, compared to 3,200, compared to 7,500. It's a very disparate number. So you have to realize that you can only charge batteries at 150 watts per panel. So it takes either a lot of batteries over a long period of time charging, or which is weight, and that's why we talked about lithium ion. I think somebody was going to lithium ion earlier, but obviously if you talk lead acid batteries, you're talking about a lot of weight in an RV to get the kind of onboard power to put these inverters to actually pull back the kind of numbers that a generator produces. So think about it this way. Always remember that DC, the solar panel charges a DC source. The DC source inverts to an AC source, and that's what you run your appliances with. It's not, you do not plug your toaster into your solar panel. And every time I talk to consumers, not every time, but a lot of times when I work at shows, talk to consumers, that's the misconception. I just want to plug my appliance right into that solar panel. It doesn't work like that. You got to go through some kind of source.
You got three very good comments here. I want to bring them up one at a time. Actually, do we have four now? Yeah, I think we have four. So let's go back to Lisa. What are your thoughts on the flex panels versus the fixed panels with brackets to angle the panel?
That's a good question.
This is kind of like the 30-second lightning round, Mike, because we got four of them and we're going to be on here for another 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, so quickly on that, what she's speaking, what Lisa's speaking to here is to angle your panels to more direct sunlight. She's right. You want, and that's why I talked about portables being even better, because I can pick up the direct sunlight and I can make the panel more efficient. So absolutely, you want to be able to angle them if you can, versus fixed. Next question.
Yeah, I want to get Jerry on there because it addresses the same thing.
Yeah, obviously lying flat on the roof is much less efficient, and that's because we don't have that direct sunlight. So we want direct sun. We want the panel to be in the most direct sunlight to get the most out of the panel.
Except at 12 noon. Right?
Yeah.
Really the only time.
And if the sun's shining.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So Walter's got a profound statement there. It doesn't require an answer, but he's just showing us how profound he is when it comes to this kind of stuff.
That's true. They are part art and part science. And I think there's the most buyer remorse of anything I've ever seen in the electrical side is solar, because people so overestimate its ability. It's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that it's not a generator. And if you sold as a generator, unless you're talking, I was just at a dealer this week and they just put $8,000 worth of stuff on a guy's coach, and he made 2,000 watts with the solar, but it was $8,000 to get 2,000 watts, and with the inverters and lithium ion batteries they put in it. So it's just really oversold. Very seldom delivers on what people think.
Okay, that was about Jerry's comment there.
Yeah, absolutely. 8 amps, AC toaster, 80 amps. Yeah, right. That's it. You're talking amp draw. Your conversion factor, you always got to remember, if you're 12 volt, you're talking about watts. You have a 12 volt source, that the more amps, the lower the voltage, then the higher the amperage to get the same amount of wattage. So that's why you run 220 appliances in your home, because the higher the amperage, the lower the voltage. Like
one of the other trends that we've seen is household appliances in the RVs, and the jury's still out on that. And there's a lot of pros and cons about these larger fifth wheels and larger motorhomes having household refrigerators that weren't built for going down the road, but they also draw more power. So as we get to see these large motorhomes, large fifth wheels, trying to outfit them the way we have it at home, obviously they probably have to go to the 7,500, because these small generators aren't going to do anything for them, right?
Yes, what we see, the trend you're talking about, Bob, it happened a lot to do with price, because obviously a home refrigerator, when you go to shop one, you go, wow, that's a lot less expensive than a absorption refrigerator like we see on board a lot of RVs. Even if they're compressor refrigerators, it's still more money when they're run 12 volt 110. But the problem with home refrigerators is you're always going to have to invert that. If you're running down the road, you don't have, unless you're running your generator, you don't have a 110 source on board. If the refrigerator is a home refrigerator, it runs a 110. So now we have to invert power from a DC source to run the refrigerator, which is why a lot of new coaches have inverters on board. In the old days, you didn't see inverters. You saw converters, but you didn't see inverters on coaches. Today, you see more coaches with inverters right from the factory. But when you're inverting power like that, it's not efficient. There's always loss. Whenever you invert power, you always have loss because you lose power in heat, and heat is lost. So it's really not the most efficient way. You use a lot of battery power to run that same refrigerator that you could have run that was designed for an RV, would run much more efficiently on there.
Hey, Mike, let me add one thing here. I saw Lisa ask a question about, so therefore, would you go with the fixed solar panels? And I'm just guessing something here, that unless you have some type of motorized issue to be able to angle those panels to the sun, you run a risk every time you climb an RV ladder to get up on the roof to do that. And that's a factor that I think as the RVer gets older, every time, and you know what? And as you get older, you get a little heavier. And a lot of times those RV, what do you call it? The ladders say weight limit 225 pounds. And I know more RVers that exceed that weight limit. So you are running a risk every time you go up on that roof. Would you agree with me on that?
Oh yeah, and that's why you see a lot of these suitcase portables as the way to go, because you can move from the ground, and there's a lot of people out there that have what we call pre-wire, which is kind of an overused word, but the idea is that you can plug that panel right into the coach without having to put your own wiring on to do that. And the pre-wire means you can just plug the panel right into the coach and provide that battery charging from the panel, and with a long cord on it.
Ability to move it as the day progresses with the sun.
Yes.
Here's something else that Walter points out about the stick-on panels.
Right. Absolutely. You have amorphous and monocrystalline type of panels. There's basically two major types of solar panels, and so he's kind of hitting on the idea of which one's more efficient. And obviously, the stick-on panels are less efficient, and they do get hotter because they have no air circulating underneath them. So Walter's correct on that as well.
Okay, Lisa, I'm going to give you one more question here. You talk about generators. I assume she's talking solar panels, Mike.
Yeah, there was a time when I would have, I think I like Samlex a lot right now. There was a time when I probably would have said Zamp, only because Zamp had more pre-wire out there, and pre-wire was kind of really the cool thing for consumers, but Samlex has kind of overcome that, and I think Samlex has a more complete line. But Go Power's out there. There's a lot of brands out there. There is also brands from China that are really, and maybe that's where she's asking the question, there's some really junk brands out there too. I can't say it nicely because that's what they are. They just don't produce the output. They might say they do, but you find out later they don't.
When they're new, right, Mike?
There's another point, and I know I keep going back to it, but that's what NERVDA is all about. When the dealers buy the products from you, whether they're solar or they're generators or what have you, you have an entire classroom and training operation at your facility down there in Pennsylvania. So you do a lot of training, and the worst thing, and we've all been there, is going to a big box store that might have a great selection, but the kid doesn't know the front from the back. So maybe it costs you a little bit more at a dealer, but guess what? They're selling the best product that they feel is right for their customers, but they're actually been very well trained by you and your staff, right?
I think it's good. I also think that the dealer has so much more to lose. I mean, dealers want to sell coaches, and they're a whole solution provider. And we're seeing this in a lot of our data with under 45 consumers, that they're starting to appreciate that, because I think a lot of times you want to buy a solution as a consumer. You don't want to just buy a solar panel. You're trying to buy a solution. You're trying to buy what does what you want to do to go. And so often people sell components, they don't sell solutions. And then the dealer has to sell a solution because he has to be there to support it. He's not going anywhere. He sells you the RV. He sells you the solutions that we're talking about. He's a much better source for those kind of things, because it's not as simple as just selling you a panel and then never seeing you again. Everything a dealer does is really about keeping long-term relationship with the consumer and building that brand of his dealership. And he's not going to risk that dealership over a solar panel. So you're right. When you go to a big box store, they just want to sell a solar panel. They don't think about a long-term relationship with that customer. They'll next week they want to sell them a plug or a light. It's
or you go in and you go in and the rack where you saw the product that you had this week is gone, and there's a new product in its place because they got a better price on it, and they filled up 120 warehouses with it. But look, we're up to 754, and yeah, John, we're gonna start closing out so we get out by 8 o'clock. Go ahead, John.
One thing that we never told our viewers to do tonight, and I sound like a broken record, and here we are 55 minutes into the show.
I read your mind.
Share this show with your friends. If you go down the bottom, if you're looking at it on an iPhone, down below, it has a share button. And if you're on a laptop, it's got a share button. So please, I mean, we had 4,000 views within the first 24 hours last week.
Yeah, they're up over 60. I think they're pretty close to 60. Brian and Lisa are up close to 6,500 views.
Yep. And I'm amazed that, we got 55 comments on this show already tonight. I know that we'll be in the several thousand viewers because not only is this good information, but this is information that can save people thousands of dollars if they try to cheap out with it. And, like you said, Mike, a lot of stuff that comes in from offshore countries looks good when it's brand new, but it just looks good. It just doesn't do anything. So
and dealers can't afford that reputation. And that's why I think when you buy from a dealer, you don't have to worry about that, because dealers, it's a total solution, and they want a relationship with you as a customer. They don't want just one transaction. These other guys are transactional and they're thinking, and dealers are more holistic and more. I want to give you a good experience to go camping. So I think that's important.
I think we got a new customer for you, Mike.
Good. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that, Lisa.
As a show, to show how much power we have as a show, let's just ask our viewers that are watching now and also that are watching on replay to just type in 2 words on their screen down below in their comments. And that will be "Go Sox," and that's Sox, SOX. And I'm gonna make up a contest right now, Mr. Zagami. And since you're the executive director, you have to figure out how to administer it. But sometime within the next week, let's take one of those comments, and somebody will win something from NERVDA, or we'll give them 2 tickets to the Boston show.
And like I told you when we talked to you about this, we don't practice this stuff. We have no script. We don't know what each other's going to say.
Are you kidding?
They just came in today, and we're going to launch our Facebook contest starting November 4th for I don't know, Michelle doesn't have any sound, so she can't hear me, but we're going to have a contest every week for a 4-pack of tickets for the Boston RV and Camping Show, which will be January 18th to the 21st. So now, what do you want for? I'll have 2 tickets. I'll give 2 tickets. But you set the rules, John, for what you were talking about.
We'll randomly pick them by this time next week, so that the people that are watching on replay can figure it out as well. Just type in "Go Sox," and we'll have a random pick.
See, we're gonna have problems with Lisa. See, she cannot follow direction. We said I didn't hear anybody say anything about "Go Dodgers." No. So Brian is excluded from the contest.
Brian's out.
Right.
He's out.
He's out. Right? So but now Dolores says play ball. Can we go play ball or go Sox, and then we'll pick somebody for 2.
Play ball only counts for half.
Only 1 ticket. All right, Mike. I'll give you the closing statements. I really appreciate you joining us tonight. This has been. I think it was a very good show. I didn't understand half of it, but I think the audience liked it. I think they had good questions. So I'll give you the closing statement.
We liked, though.
What's that?
I said what we understood we liked.
Right, exactly. Go
okay,
ahead, Mike.
so I guess the closing statement would just be that there's Energizer is a good brand to if you're looking for a generator, an inverter style generator, it's a great brand. It has value. It's value priced, but it also offers the features of all the best brands out there. And so if you're looking to put something on your unit, 5th wheel travel trailer, 30 amp, 50 amp, we have a solution for you, and the dealer has it in stock. And if they don't have it in stock, they're just a day or two away from having it in stock. So support your local dealer with it, because they're the ones that'll be there for you when you need it.
Brian, what's your phone number?
Well, I don't know if we want to do that, because one of the things that, Mike sells to our dealers, so we don't want him.
Okay, that's right. Yep.
So
Yep,
ask
right.
your dealers about the Energizer product, and if they don't have it, you can tell them they can buy it from Keller Marine and RV, which is servicing New England every day. And so we'll do that. So that's why we're not, and the website is strictly for the dealers themselves. So it's not consumer oriented, but Mike has such a great wealth of knowledge. We wanted to get him on. And look who shows up late to the party. Now, I shouldn't say that. Maybe he's been on for the whole hour and he just wanted to, hear you talk. So good evening, Mike.
Hi, Mike. How's it going, Mike?
He's a great one. He supports NERVDA all the time and does a great job with our dealers too. All right, folks, we are going to sign off because it is exactly 8 o'clock. The game starts in 9 minutes. I've got to go refresh my adult beverage. And Mike, thanks again for joining us. And John, we'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Have a great
guys.
day.
We
Go Red
appreciate
Sox.
it. Thanks again.